celebrate neath the cloudless sky. Air so sweet, water pure, fields ripe with rye. Come on, gather round, discard your Sunday shoes.
Hey y'all, trying something new and starting a little series of playlists, a theme oriented for different days, maybe for the ride to work in the morning, a quick breather from the daily grind, a means to stay concentrated during your daily workout, the traffic jam drive home at the end of the day, or the soundtrack to your Feierabend beer, glass of wine, soothing cocktail, or non-alcoholic drink, well deserved to ease you into the evening chill mode. Considering the future of rock is female, and the past filled with plenty of ladies who have paved the way, Wednesdays will be in the sign of women who rock. An often underappreciated group that has in the last couple decades begun to truly stake its rightful claim in rock and roll and become the #1 force to reckon with in the decades to come. Many of the current female artists are keeping the flame alive with an invigorating freshness and creativity rarely matched by their current male counterparts. This batch of songs combines soulful folk and hip-hop sounds with a bit of old-school psychedelic Motown, rock and R&B, danceable hard rock, Electronica, trippy Indy, and sends you off with an acid rock classic that stands in a field of its own.
My mind, it is an ocean blue. From these waters, thoughts for me to you. Observer serves a higher point of view.
We ease in with the transcendental folk of Elephant Revival, one of the most creative bands of the last 2 decades. I was at first taken aback by the relative mellowness the first time I saw this band play at the Harvest Fest on Mulberry Mountain. It only took me a song or two to realize, though, what quality they were bringing to the table, and by the end of their set I was a lifelong fan. An acoustic guitar intro leads us ever so softly into Point of View when a mandolin swings open the floodgates. The wave of Bonnie Payne's angelic voice sweeps you into her mind that is an ocean blue, from whose waters she brings her thoughts to you. Bridget Law's fiddle playing and Sage Cook's mandolin add color and texture, filling out the surrounding landscape with their impeccable play. They refer to their style of music as transcendental folk because it transcends several musical categories and incorporates elements of Scottish Celtic fiddle tunes, original folk pieces, traditional ballads, bluegrass, and indie rock. Having been in trade school the last few months and listening to my African-American co-students bringing up various hip-hop artists in conversation during break, I suddenly felt the urge to revisit one of my favorite movies. Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, is a 1999 crime film written and directed by Jim Jarmusch. Forrest Whitaker stars as the title character, the mysterious Ghost Dog, a hitman and employee of the mafia who follows the ancient code of the samurai, as outlined in the book of Yamamoto Tsunetomo's recorded sayings Hagakure. The soundtrack is produced by Wu-Tang Clan's RZA. The collection of songs is considered quite an insider tip, with Robert Christgau from The Village Voice calling it hip-hop as mystery, beauty, pleasure, as idealized aural environment. Oddly enough, it even made an impression on my mom, who's everything other than a hip-hop fan. Upon revisiting the soundtrack, Walking Through the Darkness by Tekitha Washington immediately popped out as one of the standout tracks on this album. Tekitha had been the Wu-Tang Clan's in-house singer for the album Wu-Tang Forever, in which she also performed a solo track titled Second Coming. The song, with its hypnotic background vocals and spaghetti western-inspired guitar loop, seemed to transcend the boundaries of hip-hop and R&B, making it hard to place in any decade or genre. The cryptical lyrics pay homage to our lonely hero evading his fate by walking through the darkness.
It was a stormy night, you know, the kind where the lightning strikes. And I was hanging out with some of my artsy friends. Ooh, you, the night was long, the night went on. We were cooling out until the break of dawn. Incense was burning, so I'm feeling right. I picked my friends like I picked my fruit. Again, he told me that when I was only a youth, I don't walk around trying to be what I'm not. I don't waste my time.
In the spring of 2019, I had to do a job up in Montgomery, Alabama. The crew I was with had by chance booked an Airbnb at a former Jacksonville Jaguars player's home. He had a giant karaoke machine in the living room with a large CD folder laying on top full of hip-hop and R&B discs. I immediately seized on the opportunity and ripped a bunch to my hard drive, one of which was Erykah Badu's Baduism. I had heard Neko K's name drop Erykah during her Bonnaroo 2009 set as Neko raved about Badu's earlier show. All things considered, it only took me a hint, 10 years, and a lucky accident to discover her apple tree, a perfect fit for this set. I'd honestly never listened to this lady before adding the CD to my collection, but hey, better late than never. Another groovy hip-hoppity tune with fun lyrics about female empowerment and smooth, beautiful vocals flying free like a willow tree. During another break at the trade school, the conversation happened upon a newer band called the Black Pumas. One of my fellow students described the Pumas as psychedelic jazz, whereas I consider them more retro soul like Sharon Jones. When I got home that evening, I decided to Google psychedelic soul, which I had really no idea was actually a thing, and up popped a Wikipedia page on the whole subject. Next thing you know, I'm discovering unbelievable music from the late 60s to early 70s, one of which was the Supremes' New Ways But Love Stays album. An absolutely enjoyable listen with three of the most beautiful voices to ever grace the airwaves. Had a hard time picking exactly which song I wanted to add, but think that Shine On Me melds in quite well. Not sure if I would consider this psychedelic, but it does transcend their original Motown sound with a hard to define edge.
Let them knock upon my door until their hands are black and blue. I'm not answering for no one.
One of the great blessings of the last couple decades has been Sharon Jones with her band, the Dap Kings, a powerhouse of a singer and true disciple of funk and soul music, who unfortunately left us way too early in 2016. NPR wrote in remembrance of her, Sharon Jones beamed who she was right at you from the first minute to the last. One of her standout albums is 100 Days, 100 Nights, and if you haven't had a chance to add this album to your collection, you have been missing out. A fellow DJ in Munich kept on bringing her name up to me, but unfortunately, I ignored his recommendations for far too long, denying me a possibility of ever seeing this charismatic queen of soul live on stage. The whole album is filled with goodies, but I really enjoy the edgy imagery of Let Them Knock with its horn-heavy New Orleans-style blues and old-school soul groove. We ain't answering to nobody else but you either, Sharon. Another female powerhouse comes in the form of Grace Potter, my personal favorite of the modern rock and blues and soul singers. If you haven't seen this lady live yet, add that to your bucket list. Grace Potter rocks the house. Nothing But the Water is a full-force rock and soul juggernaut with a heavy gospel feel that is bound to get you off your feet and jumping, or at least pounding your steering wheel with your fingers and hands while you sing along to have the sweet water wash you down. Things get moving with a swinging bass line, boogie piano, and Grace's powerful voice calling for the water to free her from the devil's child. The lady knows how to play a mean keyboard and spikes this song with a killer organ solo, followed by a precise and to-the-point guitar lead while the infectious bass and beat keep the rhythm going in the background. We'll find glory somewhere, somehow. Who You Selling For is definitely the Pretty Reckless's most mature record to date, top-notch from front to end and firmly grounded in the hard rock genre. The lone exception being Mad Love, their only outing into a more dance-friendly pop direction. The song still manages to maintain a harder edge, however the vocal, bass, and beat arrangements are definitely dance pop at its finest. A sly wink from Taylor Momsen that she has the ability to cover any genre. If she wanted to, she could go full-on pop, but decides to spike her vocals with her signature raw rock and roll feel. The band slams a hard rock and industrial bridge in the mix to leave no doubt they ain't about to sell out. Just playing around a little. With probably the best female voice in rock and roll right now leading the way, the Pretty Reckless as a whole are an invaluable addition to the modern rock universe.
Ich und die Lane, sie ist mein Partykapitän. Überall hin nimmt sie mich mit, und für sie ist dieses Lied Elaine und ich. Sie weiß alles über mich, ich alles über sie. Sheriff and Deputy.
Keeping with the dance beats is a little ditty from German electro-pop duo Zweiraumwohnung. Inge Humpes sings about her indestructible friendship in Ich und Elaine, Me and Elaine. They are female musketeers, sheriff and deputy, and an adventure team who share the blood in their veins. See if you can spot these English additions in the song, plus the one I left out. A fun dance track to sing along with, even if the CH and Ich gives you a hard time. Don't sweat it, nobody can hear you in your car.
Been a while since I felt this way about someone. I really, really like to know you more. I know you more. All your eyes sing a song to me, and I really, really like to move to it. A groove. And
Things turn a little indie rock with Heartless Bastards, another of my favorite bands of the last couple decades. Erykah Winterstrom has one of the most unique and hard-to-define voices in rock and roll. That said, she knows how to use it in all its emotional glory, and is perfectly able to maximize on her range, never leaving its bounds, but never letting it limit her either. The Village Voice wrote, "Dead-eye accurate in pitch and message. What we've got is a hard-gnarled voice singing simple-seeming melodies that feel archetypal rather than ordinary, which is no easier to explain than it is to do. Only for You gives her a perfect vehicle to let this one-of-a-kind voice shine, underscored with a rhythmic bass line and beat. The single-note guitar riffing goes on its own parallel explorations and gives the song an overall adventurous feel."
The most tender place in my heart is for strangers. I know it's unkind, but my own blood is much too dangerous. Hanging round the ceiling half the time. Hanging round the ceiling half the time.
Another unique voice comes from the heart and lungs of Neko Case, a powerful, untrained contralto voice which has been described by contemporaries and critics as a flamethrower, a powerhouse which seems like it might level buildings, 120-mile-per-hour fastball, and a vocal tornado. Hold On from Fox Confessor Brings the Flood is another song that is harder to find or place in any genre, but has a fun acoustic groove with a dark edge and strange atmospheric vocals. Is it indie, alt-country, folk rock? Not sure, but creative in its imagery and catchy in its delivery. It's a devil she loves, and it's as funny as real love.
Come, my one, look at the world. Bird, beast, butterfly, girl, sing notes of heaven. Birds lift them up to the sky.
My first year experiencing Bonnaroo was 2005. I noticed Patti Smith coming up at this stage, that stage, or whatever stage, and figured I'd check her out for a song or two, having really only ever heard her Jimi Hendrix tune. Don't really like that song, but thought I would pay the grand dame of rock and punk my respects anyways. Needless to say, I stayed for the whole show. She about brought down the house, or should I say tent. Immediately after the festival, I bought Trampin', the album she was touring in support of at the time. Mid-album, Patti Smith greets us with cartwheels, guiding us with her deep, comforting voice into her picturesque collage of a girl's thoughts, darting like a rabbit across the moon, shines of light over her hair as boys croon. She's a master at creating obscure imagery, herself being a muse to others and an artwork all on her own. Cartwheels is disorienting yet familiar, like a warm acid trip on an early summer day on green fields and brooding woods in some far-off distant New England landscape. The rabbit seems to be waiting behind the brush.
Lather was 30 years old today. They took away all of his toys. His mother sent newspaper clippings to him about his old friends who'd stopped being boys. There was Howard C. Green, just turned 33. His leather chair waits at the bank. And Sergeant Dow Jones, 27.
One of my favorite female voices belongs to Grace Slick, who once said of herself that she doesn't really sing. Whatever she does, her voice has guided me through some very strange journeys, with the floors and walls moving in unison to her deep, mysterious vocal motion. Lather has always been one of my favorite Jefferson Airplane songs, and it has to be one of their most trippy. The imagery is insane, yet not in a disorienting way. The sound effects and kazoo are spot on and accentuate her story perfectly. You join this young boy skipping through this hallucinatory world along with Howard C. Green and Sergeant Dow Jones, thrashing the air with your hands while producing the finest of sounds. A strange tale about getting old while still feeling like a child. Hope you all enjoyed this little selection. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please throw some of your favorite female artists my way. Don't forget to keep on rocking. Cheers.